Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hope you're well. Welcome back. Happy Sunday. This is Leadership Matters Live number 10, and we are talking about something a little bit different. I do want to make sure to clarify to everyone out there that I may talk about many different topics over the course of this podcast, but for me, it always comes back to the perspective of being a father and having two kids that I'm raising, and then, for me being the son of of someone who raised three boys, of two people that raised three boys. So that's always kind of at the front of my mind, but I may be talking about anything over the course of a given day. And today in particular, something happened on Friday night at my son's lacrosse game that I wanted to get into a little bit. So I'm very interested to talk about it. And essentially what it comes down to is coaching, and also kind of the different ways that some of our kids are viewing some of the competitive sports that they're in right now. So let me give a little bit background. So it's Friday night. Both my sons play lacrosse. By the way, this is a practice lacrosse ball that I'm always holding on to these things. And there's going to be more of this coming soon. I have some ideas about this. So it's Friday night. I'm at my son's lacrosse game, and my younger guy is not fully into the competitive, I'm going to kick the other guy's butt kind of attitude. He has a little bit more of a relaxed demeanor about him. And after halftime, my son was put into the game and getting ready to start the third quarter. And the coach very abruptly pulled him out of the game before even giving him a chance to play. So somehow messages got mixed up that he was supposed to go in the game, and it turns out that he wasn't supposed to win the game. So the coach kind of, in my opinion, a little bit rudely, but this is not an indictment on the coach at all, because I fully understand volume has to happen. If anyone knows that, I understand that. Y'all don't want to hear me yell. But, so he pulled my son out of the game, and I was curious as to what happened. And I had two thoughts. One, the coach needs to be a little bit more careful about tone, because we are living in 2021, and we got to be careful sometimes of how we say things, and it could be misconstrued in some negative ways. Now, not to offer any criticism about how he is as coach, but I think we just kind of need to be careful about how we communicate with our kids nowadays. And I think, as I put in my story the other day, that goes for parenting and teaching and coaching. And then a second thought that came from that was, if that had happened to me when I was playing, I would have been pretty pissed off. And my son reacted in a way that was very different from how I would react. So there's a couple things that I want to get into. One, what's going on that my son is not responding to the way that I kind of want him to? And also, is that okay? Is there something wrong with how I'm viewing that? And maybe should I change my perspective a little bit on that? And also recognizing that our coaches are in some very important roles. If you're a high school coach or a college coach, we know that. We know the importance of the role that you're in, and you guys are paid professionals, and I'm not here to critique you. I'm here to support you. But for coaches in the recreation side of sports, I think there just needs to be some recognition of how important of a role that is. And recognizing that, maybe we need a little bit something different from our coaches right now. So I'm going to bring my buddy in, Peter Miranda, once again, joining me. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We're going to get into it. We have Kathy Vargas, hopefully joining us earlier, and a former student of mine, Evan Schumer, possibly coming on later on as well. This might be a short one. We're just going to get our thoughts out there. I'm hoping this kind of brings the conversation to light. Maybe we can have some further conversation in some other episodes. I've already gotten some interesting feedback on this, so I'm very looking forward to hearing you guys or having you guys hear what that is. All right, Pete, welcome back to Leadership Matters Live, number 10. What's up, dude?
Number 10, big one. What's going on? Congratulations.
I'm in double digits now. I'm rolling.
Yes, sir. So I'm ready.
And I wanted to very happily, I know you saw my Facebook post. So before we get all into the coaching stuff, I'm going to give you my situational report, my sit rep for what's going on with me in the fitness journey right now. We'll do a quick comment. Mom's listening. What's up, Mom? How are you? Nothing like having mom support, right? I appreciate it. So let me give you a quick update as to what's going on with the fitness journey. Another day, a little further and a little faster today.
Nice.
I'm over that 2 mile mark. I hit 2.5 miles today before I decide to scale back and walk. And then for the month of May, well, first off, it was really nice. And I think I might have found the right soundtrack for me when I'm running, which is totally biting off the movie Warrior and listening to Beethoven while I'm running.
Oh, nice. That's calm.
I tried it today. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. We'll see how far I can go with it. And then I'm doing this pyramid thing where I'm doing push-ups, starting at 1 and then 2 and then 3, going up to 13. So push-ups, squats, and pull-ups, up to 13 and then back down to 1. I didn't make it that far today, but that's where I'm going to be going with it. And Lord knows I can't do a proper pull-up right now anyway. But so it's just jumping up and lowering myself down as slowly as possible. But I'm looking forward to getting into that, and I'm excited about the gains that I know will be coming real soon, man.
Awesome.
Following your lead, bro.
I've been actually taking a break, 2-day break.
Okay, just 2.
Tomorrow, 2 days. Tomorrow, back to the hustle. Running.
All right. What's on the agenda for you?
This month probably 150 miles. I have the 5K. And I'm trying to go for a sub 20. A sub 20 is a 5K, 3 miles under 20 minutes. Very difficult to do. I'm gonna announce it tomorrow. My best time is like a 23 minutes, so I have to cut 3 minits in 30 days. So I'm going for it. If I get it, wow,
that's a lot.
Come close. It's fast.
All right. Well, best of luck, man. Keep at it.
Appreciate it.
So we connected a little bit yesterday. It seems like to get a little spiritual about it, it seems like we're kind of on the same page, and I feel like the woke community would say that that's because our collective has a certain mindset right now, and it seems like we're on the same page with how we're viewing things going on with our kids. You put something out there a little bit about how you're communicating with your son. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, my wife told me that obviously that it was National, what was the word for it? National Teen Self-Esteem Month. And it's something that I've been talking to her about, just mainly how the growth process has been a little bit difficult, just a lot of change being home, being home and watching my son actually get physically bigger. His whole persona's kind of changed, so it's just more adapting to it. And then I started realizing that I'm trying to cut him back from certain things, the video games, trying to get away from the computer, just trying to spend more time with him and just build him up, let him know that even though I'm busy and I'm doing my thing, I wanna put a little bit more focus into him working on himself and him and I, more things.
So one of the things that we touched on is like how isolated kids are in this time right now. And, kids were definitely isolated beforehand, before COVID, and now quarantine, it's almost, we're being told that we have to stay in. And one of the things that we're seeing is that they're not socializing enough with people outside. So my guy in particular, I mentioned, he's playing his lacrosse on Friday night. And for him, it seems to be, this is his way of socializing, right? But I'm looking at it and I'm wondering, well, why aren't you going after this as if it's a competitive thing? Like, why? Where's that fire, right? And I mentioned, he got very abruptly pulled out of the game, and we're going to get into a little bit of the coaching aspect of things in a moment. But I know if that had happened to me, my mindset would have been, I'm going to show you in practice tomorrow that I should be on the field. Don't you dare take me out, especially without giving me a chance to prove myself first, right? And to him, he was kind of just like, no big deal. And part of me thinks, well, it is a big deal. I want you to have that fire. But part of me is also, maybe this just isn't for him. Maybe I have to look at it a little differently and not force him to do something that he's not enjoying.
No, I
You
know.
know,
I've been in that predicament as well. Everything I approach is competitive when I'm by myself or if I'm going with someone. There's always just I want to see what I can do. And my son has that in different aspects, gaming. He has it with me one-on-one, but in terms of going out there and feeling like the edge to win, that's not in him yet. But in terms of like athletic ability, where we grew up, athletic baseball, we did everything, dodgeball. I started throwing the football with him today, and we go out in the summer, we do frisbee, we do football, we run.
yeah. So you guys got yourself a little touchdown down there. Very nice.
So the kid has an arm. I swear to God, my son has an arm. He can throw a baseball hard, he goes football far. But I've told him like, got to start embracing your talents.
Yeah.
You might be good at flag football. You might not like the physical aspect of gearing up and playing on a football team. And I mean, that's not the goal. But I just want him to be able to, if he gets with guys, let's throw the football. Let's make contact. And then that's something that's rare these days. You don't see kids playing out in the street anymore.
So to flip that, and for those that have been listening to me for a little while, they know that my kids are very different, right? Where my guy Daniel is not that competitive and is kind of just there for the socialization. My older guy, Noah, he's super into the competitiveness and the camaraderie behind it. Let's go with the team. I want to play with my team. The guy, I want to be with the guys that I've been with for a long time, and I want to go and try to win, right? And that is something that is very important right now because sports, it's kind of the only outlet we have. Right, you're not really. I mean, granted, there are other extracurricular activities out there, but sports. I'm reading a new book. I'm going to share with you in a moment. But I read something today that sports is like our secular religion. Right, our country is obsessed with it in some way, shape, or form. So it makes it that much more important to make sure we have good coaches in this atmosphere, and it's the coaches that we put in these situations that have to build that camaraderie. Right. So it begs the question: what are we looking for in our coaches? Do we have to change the perspective a little bit, right? So we have a comment here from Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer, very much. I definitely agree with you and how we need to be careful with our words and how we choose to speak to our children. The way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice, whether we realize it or not. Our words resonate with them, right? And this is definitely very true, right? Like what you're told by your coaches, you internalize it. Do you happen to have any examples or instances that a coach has been either positive or negative with you?
Oh yeah,
because I got tons of stories about this, but I want to see what you have to say about it.
Oh yeah, I played baseball up into college. My dad was my coach for many years, and then I had high school coaches and little league coaches. Some coaches are very hard nosed. They work off of negativity. The more they bash you and try to bring out the best in you. And then you have that coach that makes you feel like it's okay, tap on the shoulder, don't worry about it. I'm more myself. I've taught people different things with martial arts, with sports, but I like to be a little bit in between. But I like to have the fire. I'm not one of those people I'm not a participation coach. Like they're guys for that. And commend them, the guys who say, "Come on, let's just do." I'm not a let's do it for fun type of guy. That's not my nature. But there's an outlet for that. Right now we may need some coaches who might just benefit from the participation of just getting kids together, which is fine. But I think it's important to have a little bit of tough direction with these kids.
And it's a thin line that we have to walk, right?
Of course, yeah.
We do want to be tough, right? And that's why I don't want to get on any coaches that are well-intentioned, right? Because I think that is the most important thing. If you are willing to put yourself out there and help, volunteer, you're well-intentioned, and we appreciate that and have to appreciate that. Mm-hmm. But I guess we have to figure out a way to walk that fine line that we're not being negative, but we're being supportive, but also let them know, like, hey, we need that drive, we need that fire, we got to push, but we are in this together. There's actually wasn't planning on saying this, but there's something that was taught to me pretty early on in my educational career, and it's simply use the word "we" rather than "you" or "I." Right? You don't need to do this. I don't need to do this. We need to do this. And that very simple change in language makes sure to let the person know that, hey, you're on the same team. You're on the same side. We're in this together, right? And I think that's something that we definitely need to pay attention to. And I also know that volume, and especially when you're yelling across the field, it can get misconstrued a lot of times, right? So I'm not saying don't yell. Sometimes you got to yell, right? But if you're going to pull them off the field, maybe have a conversation with them afterwards, right? Or make sure he understands what was going on. And also work beforehand to build that culture. That way they trust you and don't fear you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
there's a thin line between being an asshole as a coach and then being someone who's really trying to be motivating, but in a stern way. You know, I went to a football game the other day. I was running in Pelham Bay, and I saw some coach on the sideline just berating his players, and like you could see like the emotions of the kids just walking off. And I'm like saying to myself, if I was a parent, I'd jump all over the coach's ass. There is a fine line between breaking someone down and breaking to build. You know, there is a difference.
Right. You know, so on that note, this past Friday, the coach did his thing. He yelled, pulled my son off the field. And I'm standing there in the stands for a couple minutes thinking to myself, I wonder how Daniel feels, right? Mm-hmm. Should I use this as a teaching moment? And sure enough, I did. And I don't really give a crap what other parents think. I was the only parent that decided to step onto the whole playing field. I walked across the track and made sure, and I pulled my son off the sideline just a couple steps off the sideline, and I talked to him. And I don't care what anyone thinks about it. Because now I'm sure I gave the impression, because I was kind of moving with a purpose, right? Right? I'm like, yeah, I need to go. I'm sure I gave the impression to some people that were watching that I'm going to go talk to the coach or even going to go and rip my son. It's not what happened. We had a conversation. We talked. I asked him how he felt. Is he okay? That's it. And then I was like, all right, done. Quick teaching moment, but I felt that I needed to do it in that moment and not wait until afterwards, right?
You needed to see it.
Yeah, and it had to happen right there. Mm-hmm. Otherwise it would have been gone from both of our consciousness, and it's a lost moment. I think that's something that's important. We have to recognize those teaching moments. As coaches, you got to recognize those teaching moments, and that's the kind of thing that's why I think high school coaches are required to be teachers, because there's a level of coaching that is teaching. A very big aspect of coaching that's teaching. And you have to kind of, understand when you should have that moment and then when maybe to let it go. So let me tell you the new book that I'm reading. It's called Inside Out Coaching by this guy, Joe Ehrmann. He was in the NFL for a while, but I'm only about 10. I'm on my Kindle, right? So it tells me how much percentage I'm in. I'm 10% in, and I've got highlights all over the place already. But the big point that he makes, there's a difference between transactional coaching and transformational coaching. And transactional coaching is when the coach is acting a certain way and saying certain things to the kids or to the players simply to get them to perform so that they win, so that the coach then wins and the team then wins. Whereas transformational coaching is more about having some understanding, some empathy, and trying to do what is best for the player. And then by doing that, you're taking care of the player, and then that player is then more willing to kind of run through a wall for you, but you're more caring about the player and not necessarily winning the game, right? And it actually made me think, how many coaches are out there that have had amazing impacts on their players, but have never been thought of as a good coach because maybe they didn't win as many games as another one, right? But does that lessen their impact at all? Of course not, right?
Nah. That's like if you want to do like a comparison, it's like Bobby Knight from Indiana.
Yep.
That's the extreme case, and then you have the Georgetown coach, what's his name, Thompson, who passed away a few years
Yeah.
ago. Two different styles of coaching. One looks like
Very
he's
different.
very invested in the player, nurturing, caring, but yet tough. He coached Iverson, and then Bobby Knight, who looks like he'll stab you for a 3-pointer. You know what I'm saying? So that's
Yeah.
really good.
But both amazing coaches, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that, moving forward with this podcast. And I told you, we're not going to be on too long tonight. I just kind of wanted to introduce this conversation.
Gotcha.
But one of the things that I'm hoping to do going forward is maybe start learning about some of the great coaches that are out there. What makes them great, right? Because we can all say Phil Jackson with his 11 championship rings, right? I think it's 11. Obviously a great coach, right? But I've read a couple of his books. The philosophies behind his coaching is what I'm really interested in. I want to know, what's that?
Wasn't there like some sort of meditation, like something that he brought? Yeah, I read that.
Yeah. He was, he's kind of a hippie, 60s hippie kind of guy. He's very much into Native American philosophies, meditation. So I read his book called Sacred Hoops. Really, really good stuff in there that talks about teamwork and camaraderie and working together, making sure that I'm improving myself for the benefit of everyone, right? Which is what we're trying to do here, right? We're just trying to, like I see you, what you're doing, you're trying to improve yourself, but look how much of what you've done has already benefited so many other people, right? So we improve ourselves for the benefit of others, right? So I threw this topic out there to some people earlier, and I just reached out to a former student of mine. I said, hey, if you want to come on the podcast, come on at some point. He's not going to join today, but he's going to another day. And he tells me he played baseball in college. And he says he had those authoritarian type coaches throughout his entire youth and high school career, where it was just do this because I'm telling you to do this. And he didn't even realize how much of a negative impact it had on him until he finally got to college. And then he got a coach that was about family and relationship and trust and support. And he says it was night and day. So now as he's moving on into his career and getting into coaching, he's really trying to, kind of double down on that transformational type coaching rather than the transactional. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say in future episodes as well. Mm-hmm. Who's your, if I had to ask you who's the best coach out there, who would you say? Right. And we're talking like any sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, whatever, right? Even a martial arts instructor.
Who do I like as a coach? There's a lot of good coaches out there. You know who I like? Oh, man, but this is extreme. But I'm a Joe Girardi type of guy.
And he's an extreme type of guy.
He is. He could tone it down a bit, but I feel like that's the bulldog that I want representing me.
Yeah.
Because he goes to bat for his players, and he looks like he's not going to let you settle for less. That's what I pick up every time. He could be a hothead, but he's a coach that stands out to me. Like I want him as a coach.
And he's one of the coaches that's like he's very buttoned up, very detail oriented. Mm-hmm. Make sure you're doing all the small things correctly, right? And there's good and bad of every coach. Not that I'm saying there's anything bad about that, but the positive aspect of that is when you pay attention to those small details, everything else just naturally comes into focus, right? And that's that mental sharpness. By the way, speaking about mentally, I'm on that treadmill today, and I just kind of went into it knowing this is not a physical test. This is a mental test, right? That's what I was thinking today. That's all I kept coming back to. This is a mental test.
Allow time to be your best friend. Just the time. That's it. You and what you're doing. That's it.
That's funny because I swear to God, I'm looking at that time like it was my enemy.
It has to become your friend.
Flip on that.
Yeah, it has to become your friend.
I've always been a big fan of Mike Krzyzewski as a coach. Obviously, I'm partial to the fact that he went to West Point, but I've liked just the way that he turns young men into leaders. Mm-hmm. And then the coaches that have come from his coaching tree, I've always been very impressed with as well. I think the name Dawkins stands out in my head, but of course, Danny Hurley, Bobby Hurley. So, those guys, it's, but anyway, Mike Krzyzewski. I mean, there's so many good coaches out there, and we're going to get into that in the future. But, for now, we'll close out by letting everyone know what's going to be happening with these Jammy Jams. So I'm still researching to figure out exactly how to do this, but this is a Swax-Lax lacrosse ball, right? It's a practice lacrosse ball. It's meant so that when you're passing back and forth, it doesn't go rolling 10,000 feet, right? Mm-hmm. It's meant to just, it's a thud and it stays in place. This is my connection to my kids since they play lacrosse, right? And we have a bunch of these laying around the house, and I found it's probably the best stress ball I've ever had, right? So we're always talking about mental and emotional health and things like that. Well, I love this thing because you can kind of really dig your fingers into it. Mm-hmm. So moving forward, I'm going to get some custom lacrosse balls. I'm going to put the Leadership Matters logo on it with some quotes on there. And as this cause continues to move forward, anyone that donates to the Leadership Matters cause will get one of these Leadership Matters lacrosse balls when they come in. So I'm looking forward to that. Off the top of my head, I think the quote that I'm going to be using is, leadership is a mindset, not a position.
Definitely is. Yep, definitely is.
All right, man. Well, that's about it for tonight. Thank you very much for coming on and joining me. I appreciate it. And then we're going to be talking about this stuff a lot moving forward. Again, all things with the perspective of looking at my boys and young men in general, trying to figure out how to raise them into young, responsible men in this crazy culture that we're living in. But not only for them, for everyone, but that's just where our focus is right now.
Good show.
All right, bud. Be well, bro. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone, very much for joining, and we'll be back again. I think I'll be back again Tuesday night with another episode. Stay tuned, and much more content coming out. Adios.